I'm back. I'm driving my 2025 Nissan Frontier pickup. A lot of people say, why would you buy a Nissan for off-roading? And I gotta tell you, the Nissan Frontier is the best value in mid-size pickups today. It's the only mid-size with a 6-cylinder engine, which gives you the torque you need to pull those hills. It is the only truck with the, or not the only truck, but it has the best towing capability of every mid-size truck. It has highest towing capacity, has the best towing setup. It has the only truck with the lockers, full-time lockers on the rear axle, and it does it all for a base price of $34,000, which is way below the Toyota and Honda and Ford and Chevy. So for your buck, bang for your buck, this is the truck. Anyway, enough with the commercials. I'm really here to talk to you about history in this area. I'm driving along the Wasatch Mountains here in northern Utah. The town I'm driving through right now is called Pleasant View, and I'm driving along the Wasatch Front. The Wasatch Front runs along a fault line. It was created years ago, and where I'm driving right now at that time was called Lake Bonneville. Lake Bonneville covered hundreds of miles of area in this place, and you can still, along this Wasatch Front Mountains, when I hiked there as a teenager, I would constantly find seashells and small animal fossils from fish. So evidence this was a lake, and that evidence I found was very high up on the mountain, so it wasn't something that was like down here in the valley floor. So it was a deep lake, and it was a big lake. Where I'm driving right now is I-15, northbound out of the Salt Lake Ogden area, heading towards Idaho to get a lottery ticket, like I said earlier. When I drive this drive, it reminds me of my childhood, which in the 60s, when we came this route, we didn't drive I-15, we drove US 89. When we left my home in the center of Ogden to drive to Idaho Falls, a little north of Idaho Falls, to a place called Lorenzo, to visit my grandmother, we would take 89 the entire way. And that trip would take us from, in July, mind you, the longest days of the summer, we would get up hours before daylight, drive all day, all night, and arrive in Lorenzo way late hours of the night. We would stop for breakfast in Tremonton, which is not too far up the road here. Some people might say it Tremonton, but the real way to say it is Tremonton. We'd stop there at the Four Corners Cafe and have breakfast. We'd go to Downey, where I plan to stop today, in Idaho, at Flags West, and we'd have lunch. We'd then stop in Idaho Falls for dinner, and then we would drive on to Lorenzo to be with Grandma. So, all-day trip. Now you can do that trip in about 2.5 hours with the modern freeways and speed limits. But back to the older history of this area. This road I'm on right now, I-15, was part of the major thoroughfare out of Idaho and the gold mines in Idaho. You know, Boise and Ketchum, Idaho had major gold mines back in the day. And when they moved that gold, they would move it partially along this route. It would come actually from Boise, it would come along the Snake River, where I-84 goes now. On I-15 where I am now, it will eventually turn into I-84 and go across southern Idaho and on into Oregon. When they would bring gold down out of Boise, it would follow that same route, but somewhere around Burley, Idaho, Twin Falls, Idaho, they would cut south, and they would go through what used to be the capital of Idaho, which is Oakley, where I lived for a few years. And in Oakley, they would go down across the mountain and through City of Rocks. It's a state park, City of Rocks. If you've never heard of it, not a lot of people have, but it's It's a place in southern Idaho where the rocks are big and close together, and a lot of people go there to rock climb, but it looks like a city. And there used to be a stagecoach route through the City of Rocks. Right here is the old cherry farm where my friend Bill Hunsaker used to manage, and he was killed right up here alongside the freeway some years later by a driver in a van. Killed 13 freeway workers right along here. But back to City of Rocks, back in the day, the stagecoach route went through there. And if you've ever watched an old Western and watched stagecoaches being robbed, that's probably where it happened originally. It was right there in the City of Rocks area. There's a lot of areas where the stagecoach would slow down to climb a hill. Lots of places for robbers to hide. And so most of the stagecoach robberies happened there, coming out of Boise and Ketchum. They would, or Ketchum, I apologize to the Idahoans. Coming out of Ketchum and Boise, they would come kind of converge just north of City of Rocks and travel through City of Rocks, and they would get robbed there. And there's a couple of stories about stagecoach robberies in City of Rocks that happened, and they caught the robbers, but they never recovered the gold. So there's some old stories that say that in the City of Rocks there is hidden gold that was never found. They say one of them was worth about $300,000 at the time, so let's say 1890s, and one of them was worth about $180,000. The largest stagecoach robberies in the history of the U.S. Now, if you're a historian or if you're good with money, figure out what $300,000 in 1890 would be worth today in 2026. Now, don't pack up and head to City of Rocks and try to find this gold. This right here, by the way, is Willard Bay. It's a part of the Great Salt Lake, but this part is freshwater. It comes from Bear River and comes down and runs into the lake, and then there's a causeway dividing Great Salt Lake from Willard Bay. Now back to the story of the gold. Don't rush out to find it. Number one, there's a law that says you cannot take rocks or treasure from state or national parks. You'll go to prison. And you'll go to prison poor because they'll take the gold away and give it back to Wells Fargo, who owned it in the first place. And second, that's probably not there. It was probably found many, many years ago. And of course, nobody's going to go around and say, I found that treasure, because then somebody would want it back. So my guess is it's gone. If you have a different opinion, leave it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Maybe something else did happen. Maybe it's still there. I don't know. Dig a little history. I'll be back shortly after we cut off of I-15 after we hit the split from I-84 and I-15, and I split off and go north on I-15. 84 continues over towards Oregon. I'm going to go north and head to Downey and have some memories of my family on our trips to Idaho from years ago. You folks, I'll be right back.